On the occasion of Artha France's 4th anniversary, we wanted to make a video on the experience acquired in the field of autonomy for visually impaired people. A lot of progress has been made since the beginning of the project, which started with a few soldering operations in a garage, with a simple but ambitious objective, to give back the ability to perceive to blind people, and to improve the ability to see for visually impaired people. Since then, tests have been carried out continuously on more than 100 people to improve the effectiveness, comfort and handling of the device. With the current prototype, visually impaired people are equipped with a camera on their forehead, and a strap which displays the information on the skin of their lumbar region. They are able to walk on the street after a very short learning phase to get used to the technology.
Des sensations très nouvelles, un dispositif, je dirais, qui est très innovant.
Je pense que c'est quelque chose d'assez innovant, enfin, c'est même quelque chose de complètement novateur.
Ouais, je suis bluffé, je trouve que c'est vachement innovant, très innovant.
C'est une avancée, plus grande autonomie. Chose que tu peux moins faire à la canne, que tu peux faire avec le dispo, quoi. Par exemple, si on prend cet instant T où on est au match, je peux me balader sans canne dans un jardin, dans un parc.
You might wonder how this device is able to deliver these results. Our world is based on pictures, that's why everything is so complicated for a blind person. Many solutions exist to improve daily life and solve some specific problems, but for mobility, nothing is better than the white cane, the arm or the dog. In our search for a simple solution to a complex problem, we finally found a solution that is very complex but very easy to use. Because of habit, we forget what seeing really means. If we talk about vision in numbers, it sounds like science fiction. 2 times 100 million pixels, each with a sensitivity of millions of colors, processed a good 100 times a second. Our brain does this without tiring, while it would bring the most powerful computer to its knees. Verbal descriptions are a first step, but they are based on a coded language that requires the brain to reconstruct. From a sentence of a few words to a novel, the assimilation time for the brain is proportional to the amount of description. On the other hand, the time to assimilate uncoded information is inversely proportional to the amount of information. This is the case for a call, for example. The better the connection, the clearer and more relaxing it is. No one complains about the sound quality being too good, and the same goes for the number of pixels or FPS in a video. Nothing is more tiring than hearing a choppy voice because of the network. At the beginning of 2018, when we tested the first prototypes, everyone thought there was too much information and that it was complicated to assimilate everything. Yet we were making visually simple mini-games, ranging from geometric shape recognition to motion recognition. When we switched to Minecraft, the amount of information transmitted was multiplied by 10. The mass of information seemed impossible to assimilate, but nevertheless, after about 20 hours, users had no trouble finding their way around. Then in 2020 we moved on to the real world, which, admittedly, will remain far more complex than the virtual worlds for years to come. In order for the user to have the information needed to get around, we have increased the amount of information transmitted to the user by a factor of 10. At the time, the device was worn as a bracelet. On the arm, we had the big drawback that the notion of left, right, up and down was a bit blurry. Where is the top? So we had difficulties in assimilating the information. Physiotherapists advised us to put the display system in the lumbar region. This position seemed absurd because our back sensations are imprecise, but it turned out that it was only a lack of training. Since our backs have never been trained to know where the information is, we cannot locate it. Surprising as it may seem, within 2 hours, users perceived a clear gain in mobility. At the time, walking was far from fluid and, above all, slow. In 2021, to work on the speed of movement, we tested playing car games. In Trackmania, in order to control the vehicle at several hundred kilometers per hour, we further enhanced the display by a factor of 10. After months of work, a blind man was able to control the car at more than 130 kilometers per hour in only 1 hour, whereas it took 6 hours to achieve the same result in the first tests in Trackmania. If it's possible to control a car in a game, it should be possible in real life, and the tests showed that for someone who had never driven before, the hardest part was controlling the pedals, the gear shift and the steering wheel, not the perception. With everything we learned in car games, we managed to make it so that within 10 minutes, any user could see a significant gain in mobility. Tests conducted by the Vision Institute Street Lab subsequently confirmed that there was a gain in mobility after just 10 minutes of practice. They noted that 10 out of 13 participants felt that the belt was useful or very useful for getting around, and also that, with a few hours of training, people could walk at the speed they wanted, in a park, or on a clear enough walkway. In order to make the learning curve really fast, we had to transform the information as the user wants to perceive it, and not as it is. Usually, our brain does this, but it took him years of training. For example, our brain can distinguish between the voice of a speaker and the ambient noise, but everyone would prefer to hear only that voice directly, and not the surrounding noise. It can also reduce the field of view when moving at high speed, to focus only on really useful information, or focus on one object more than another. We have been gradually working on reproducing all these internal mechanisms so that the device is very quick to learn, but also very relaxing to use. As you can see, in 4 years, we went from having difficulty playing very simple mini-games, to driving cars, riding a bike, walking down the street, making a mental map of a place, finding passages, visualizing large objects without even touching them, and seeing dogs running in the grass. Many of the blind testers impressed us with their ability to interpret the information provided by the device.
C'est assez bluffant. Ayant vu avant et joué avant au jeu, c'est quand même exigeant. Ne serait-ce que finir un trajet sur Trackmania, c'est hallucinant.
Piloter une voiture de course en toute autonomie, j'y vais direct.
Enfin, c'est même quelque chose de complètement novateur, puisque rendre la vue aux aveugles, ça s'improvise pas, mais là en tout cas on obtient quelque chose qui fonctionne et qui offre un rendu assez intéressant.
Quand on allait à la fontaine, c'était plutôt incroyable parce qu'en fait j'étais assez surpris par l'affichage. Comment dire, en fait quand je suis arrivé, c'était même très bluffant. Et en fait ça m'avait donné l'impression d'avoir la forme de la fontaine.
Alors de passer d'une vision d'à peu près 10 mètres à 100 mètres, c'est une sacrée avancée. Je pense que c'est un vrai plaisir de pouvoir conduire une bagnole qui fait un sacré bazar. Je me dis que si en 3 mois on arrive à de telles choses, alors la phrase qui correspondrait le mieux à Artha France, c'est à l'impossible, nul n'est tenu.
Over the past 4 years, more than 100 of you have helped us develop this technology. By traveling these hundreds of kilometers, we have accumulated feedback and data that have been vital to the proper development of the project. This is the real strength of Artha France, and we are grateful for it. Over the years, Artha's initial goal has also expanded to other applications, such as video games or sports. We have continued to improve our prototype, and we now intend to move on to a final phase, in order to produce a device that is invisible, comfortable, can be installed in a few seconds, and is continuously improving in performance.